Hello everybody, my name is Darren and I am the owner of Behind the Label, and I've been a barista slash roaster slash coffee professional for over 10 years now. And I have been using the DeLonghi Art for 2 years, just over 2 years. I also own a DeLonghi Maestro, so I have a lot of experience with DeLonghi machines. I've also had the privilege of using a Sage and of course a lot of commercial machines as well. So today I'm going to go through a review of the DeLonghi Art, but also to give you an idea of what machine suits you and what is best for you. So let's get into it. So the first question I'll ask is, what do you want out of your coffee machine? That I need to know that answer before I can give you the best answer back, because if you want the best ever tasting coffee every single day of your life for the rest of your life, this isn't the machine for you. You want to invest in a single group, let's say La Marzocco machine with a really incredible grinder. Of course, this will be expensive. So we need to take budget into consideration, but the starting point for this is, what do you want out of your coffee? This will get you a great tasting coffee every single day. This will get you cafe quality coffee at home. And it sounds like I'm doing a sales pitch, which I am not. Disclaimer, I used to be a brand ambassador for DeLonghi. I'm not anymore. So I can say exactly what I want to say. But this will get you cafe quality coffee at home. I have the Maestro at home, which is the version up from this, and I use it every single morning. My wife absolutely loves the coffee out of it, and you can get great latte art out of it. So the art is like 500 quid, and you can get cafe quality coffee at home. That's it. If that's what you're looking for, you can get one of these, or the Sage equivalent. Again, I'm not a brand ambassador, so I don't need to say you have to get this. Sage equivalent, and to be honest, everyone's like, what's better, Sage or DeLonghi? They are pretty much identical. Like, they both have a lot of the same features. It's just about how much you want to spend on what features are what. So this is the basic model in terms of, it will give you 18 grams of coffee, 40 milliliters of espresso out, and you can steam coffee. It's a little bit manual, so I'm going to do an unboxing now. This has been unboxed before, so it's not going to look new by any means, but I wanted to give you a kind of raw behind the scenes footage of actually setting the machine up from start to finish. So I'm going to take all of the equipment out here. So we have our different bits of equipment, and today I'm just going to show you how to set it up, basically to get you great tasting espresso. As you can see, what we get in the box, we have our milk pitcher, and then in here we have our different things, like our different basket sizes. And basket size is one of the most important things you need to look out for when you are buying a coffee machine. So cheaper models, even the DeLonghi cheaper model, you might see them, the Dedicate and stuff, they don't have 18 gram baskets. They also have one hole in the bottom of their baskets. So what that means is, they only have one hole in the bottom. So you can see on this that there's lots of holes. What happens with cheaper machines is they use that one hole to help build the pressure. Sure, the machine isn't getting up to the right amount of pressure needed to brew the espresso, so the basket helps with that pressure. This is an 18 gram basket. So what I mean by that is you can fit 18 grams of coffee in here. And that's important because that's what generally cafes use. So a specialty cafe here in Ireland, they would use 18 grams of coffee in the basket to 40 milliliters of espresso out. So that's the main thing, not the main thing, but that's the first indicator of whether your espresso machine can give you cafe quality at home or not. Then the next, you can see we have a single shot basket. Never use this ever. So traditionally people would use single shots. So you'd put 7 grams of coffee in this and brew it. But the best way to brew coffee, because you have to set up your recipe, your grind size, your dose every single time you change these. The best way to do it is just use one spout. So brew everything the same, just use one spout. Like, if you're using this, you're wasting more coffee than the 7 grams. 7 grams, that's terrible maths. Than the 8 grams, that's also terrible maths. Than the 9 grams, so for your half espresso, the 9 grams that you're wasting in here, essentially, you'd be wasting a lot more to set up your recipe with this. So changing the grind size, you'd waste a lot more trying to get the recipe right. Then we have our amazing tamper mat, and our tamper and such is in here. So I'll just give you a visual of the box inside. As I said, this is already being opened. So we have our tamper mat, our tamper, and then our thing. This is kind of handy for cleaning the steam wand, so it pokes holes through it. I'll keep that out for now. Now we get on to the machine. This is actually my friend's extension lead. So Brian, if you're watching this, which you should be, if you're not going to know I still have this. But if you're watching this, I'll drop that back to you. The top tip for when you're using machines at home like this is use a filter to filter your water. The worst thing that can happen to these is lime scale builds up on the inside and it clogs up and breaks. The machine will tell you to descale quite regularly. So you can see this red line here. That is telling me to descale the machine, and that will come up every couple of months. But because I use a filter, I actually don't need to descale it as much, because obviously I'm taking the lime scale out with a Brita filter anyway. So, right, let's grab some coffee. So a few key features on this. You can see we have our grinder built in and we can adjust the grind size by moving this dial. As well as that, we also have our... So a few key features to this. We have our grinder and you can adjust the grind size left and right by doing this. We can also adjust the dose, which is this little dial here. And then we have our single or double shot buttons, okay to start brewing, temperature. So the temperature, always have it on the hottest setting. The hottest brewing temperature for espresso generally tends to be the best. And then we have different settings like long black, hot water, and espresso. I just always leave it on espresso. Long black is disgusting. Don't ever brew a long black. If you want a black coffee, just put boiling water in your cup and then top it up with a double espresso. Much nicer. That's how you make an Americano. And then we have our steam on. You press this to start the steam. So very simple in terms of how many buttons there is and setup. So the parameters we need to sort out when you're setting up your coffee machine is, as I said, your dose, which we talked about, which is 18 grams of coffee. Then you want your espresso, the amount of espresso coming out, you want it to be 40 mils, and then your time. You want that to take about 25 seconds. So the thing about the DeLonghi is it has a dial here, and it's to kind of simplify that process in terms of the grind size being correct, because it's trying to tell you basically how hard it is for the water to get through the puck. The dial will be in a different area. If you have a finer grind size, it takes the water longer to get through. If you have a coarser grind size, the water goes through quicker. If you think of it like sand and rocks, if you have sand, it's really fine grind size. So if you pour water into sand and water into rocks, if you have two glasses, one with sand and one with rocks, the water will go through the rocks much quicker than will go through the sand, because there's less room in between each rock. Block sounded clever there, but in hindsight it probably wasn't. So let's say the two big rocks are beside each other. You can imagine the water goes through quick, but if you have two bits of sand right beside each other, the water will take longer to go through. So this dial here will tell you if it's in the right grind size setting, but as well as that, we need to make sure that the dose is right. Because if I have 40 grams of coffee in there, packed into a little basket, obviously it's going to take longer for the water to get through than if I had 5 grams of coffee of the same grind size. So parameter we want constantly the same is 18 grams, and that is our starting point. So I'm going to grab a weighing scale and we're going to start brewing some coffee. So first step is open our delicious bag of Behind the Label coffee. We are a roastery. That was smooth. We are a roastery based in Ireland. We source delicious coffee from around the world and we roast it to a medium light roast profile. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to make a coffee. I'm going to move this to say 4. Let's see what 4 is like, and then pour my coffee in. So 4 is just a reference of grind size. And now we are going to look at our dose. So I'm going to come around to this side of the counter. Ooh. So I've put my portafilter onto the scales and I've turned it to 0. So now when I take the portafilter off, the scales will know how much this weighs. So next we're going to set up our portafilter with our little knock dose thing. So this is to ensure that there's no mess basically when we grind our coffee. And then I'm going to push it in to grind. So we just need to look at our reference point here, which is, it's like 14 it's on. So we'll see how much coffee 14 gives us out. So because I only put the coffee into the hopper, I'm just going to throw this out because it's probably an inaccurate reading of how much coffee is going to come out. So if you can imagine that there was no coffee in the grinder, so the first like second it was grinding with nothing in it, and then it was pushing coffee through. So I'm going to throw that shot out and then we go again, same thing. Now we're gonna weigh this, see what we came up at. And that is 77.6 grams because I was an idiot and didn't tear the portafilter with this on it. So I did that to show you what mistakes you can make as a beginner at home. Of course, I didn't make that mistake, not a chance. So I'm gonna tear that and we go again. The things I do for you at home, I'm wasting coffee here so you don't have to. Right, so that's 18.4 grams, which isn't actually too bad. I'm happy enough with that. One downside to the model up from this. So you can see now I can actually take a bit of coffee out. So that's 18.5 grams as you can see. And one issue with the model up from this is the model I have at home is a Maestro. And some Sage machines, you tamp actually with the machine. So the issue there is, if you're tamping inside the machine and then you're taking it out to weigh it, you can't really take coffee out. So you can't adjust your grind size this easy, or you can't measure it. So again, we want 18 grams. So I'm after scooping coffee out there. That's 18.2, which is fine. That's my range, 18 to 18.2, no less than that though. So now we just tamp. So you take this off, tamp, pop this back in, take that off, and then we're gonna pop this in to brew some espresso. So you just pop it in from left to right. Some things to note: we have our double shot selected, we have our hottest temperature, we have it at espresso. So let's brew some espresso. I'm gonna brew this into a glass. I'm running around like a mad thing. So let's brew this into a glass so you can see, and I'm gonna just weigh out 40 grams. So now I'm gonna hit OK. I'm also gonna start the timer. Okay, so that noise isn't great. I'll tell you why now in a sec. So what happened there was, because there was no water in the pump, or there was no water in the, the tank. There was no water in the tank at the back, so there was no water actually in the pipes. So when you press it, it was trying to suck water through. So what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna go to hot water, press OK, and it should come through. So you can see water, yes, much better noise, water's starting to come through, which is great. And now I can stop that, discard that water, which actually works out well because at least now the cup is hot. So pop this back in, and don't forget to go back to espresso. We have tiered our scales. We are gonna start our timer again and press OK. So you can see now the dial. This dial is gonna tell us how the grind size is looking. So we know we have 18 grams. So we know we have 18 grams, and you can see now the dial is going up. So the dial went into the black, I think it's actually dark blue for the DeLonghi colors, and it's taken a very long time for that espresso to come. So you can see there's only a few little droplets coming out, and it actually has now stopped. So we know we had 18 grams, 18.2, which is fine. So what can be the issue? So the only issue that this can be is it's too fine, because we have tracked our first parameter. And this is the case if you're not using a weighing scale. Sorry, I just realized my hand's in the screen there. And this is the case if you're not using a weighing scale, it's very hard to track what parameter is wrong. So when I take this out now, this portafilter, it's actually going to be very high in pressure. So you can see there's a bit of pressure. So just be careful taking it out. There we go. So it's after blown up there. So you can see it was just too fine. So we are going to make an adjustment and brew another coffee. So I'm just banging the portafilter out, and I'm going to clean it. So there's a few things that we need to note now, right? So we're going to start again by brewing our espresso. Sorry, we're going to start again by changing our grind size. So the grind size is up here. So you can see we have different measurements. We have from 8 all the way down to 1, and we started at 4. So we need to make it coarser. So to make it coarser, you just click. Honestly, I'll probably go to 5. I'm trying to think to myself, will I go more than that? We won't. We'll start off by going to 5. So we're back Now we've 5. So one thing I will recommend after you change the grind size is throwing a little bit out. So we were at 14. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to lower the dose to the minimum and just grind some just to throw out. And the reason I do this is just in case there's old grind size basically left in the tube. So you're just making sure that you're not getting any of the old grind size and you're going to get an accurate reading. So we've thrown that out. I'm going to go back to 14 because that gave us just over last time. Actually, yes. So I remember now it gave us just over last time. So I'm going to lower that dose a little bit and then tare our scales again because we tared it with the glass. Press tare, pop it in, and hopefully now we get roughly 18 grams. So we're at 18.7. So again, just take some out so we get 18 to 18.2. That's 18 on the button. So we're going to take it off. Tamp. This also helps you tamp evenly because, actually no it doesn't. Ignore me. Thought it did, but you can't actually tamp uneven. So we pop it in again and then we are going to brew our espresso. So now we pop our espresso, cut back in, and we're going to hit, we want this to be 40 mils. Tare. So you can see the dial is just in the black, but that's looking just too fine still. So the dial's in the black, it's probably going to stop brewing again. Yeah, it might finish the brew, but it's taken way too long. Yeah, so it's going to finish, but again, that was way longer than we wanted. We want that to take about 25 seconds. That's way more than it should be. So that's going to be over extracted. So if you imagine in terms of flavors, what we have here is a really over extracted coffee. So the water is taking too long to get through the coffee and it's taking too much flavor out. So the more flavor it takes out, the more bitter kind of compounds it gets. So that would not be very tasty by any stretch of the imagination. So again, we go back to our grind size. Next step is we're going to go up to 6. And then we are going to do the exact same process we just did. So we are going to get the camera steady. Beautiful angle, I know. So we are going to get the camera steady. We are going to do the exact same process. It's going to be less messy now. You see there's not pressure buildup, so it's not as messy. Going to bang this out and we're going to do the exact same thing again. So we pop our portafilter on, click this, boom, tare. We change our grind size. So again, I'm just going to go down to minimum, throw a little bit of coffee out. And I think this will be on the money. So again, we go back up to probably like 13 because the last 2 times have been just a bit too much coffee. All right, another mistake we've made. We didn't have enough coffee in the hopper. Again, this is pure educational purposes. I would never make these mistakes. Behind the Label's Finest, little plug. I would never make these mistakes without me showing you what not to do. So again, because that's not going to be the full amount, I'm even going to throw a little bit out just to make sure that we have coffee going through. And boom. Right, a little bit less, that's tared, we go again. So we take this out, let's weigh it. Whoa, we are well over, so I needed to adjust that because every time you go coarser, you're gonna get more coarse. Every time you go more coarse, you need to throw, every time you grind coarser, more coffee comes out because it's bigger particles. So every time you go coarser, you need to lower the dose anyway. And every time you go finer, you're gonna need to higher the dose to get those 18 grams. So we have 18 grams here, which is perfect. Tamp as even as you can. Pop this out. And now, let's see where we're at. Okay, I'm just gonna time it on my watch. So again, we are looking at that dial. So the dial is nearly up at the blue. That espresso is looking good. So I'm going to stop it here. So you want to stop it at about 40 mils. So you can see that's 46, 47, way too much. I should have stopped it a bit earlier. Personally, that was too quick for me. So although this says the optimal zone, you do want it to be a little bit finer, but there's no real half marks. So I can leave it there, but I think, so our optimal grind size here is in between 5 and 6. So I put it there. I'm not sure how much it stays there. This again is where this espresso is going to taste good. But if you want the absolute best espresso every day, this is not the machine for you. But if you want a good coffee every day, this is the machine for you. So we know now next time we are going to brew our coffee, we want less of a dose. So I'll take that out. I'm going to try the grind size. We'll try one more espresso. For this, I'm going to throw this out. We are looking like it's staying there, which is good. So then we go back up again. We're about there. So we're in between 5 and 6, which we think is our perfect grind size. Our dose should be 18, I hope. $18.5, so we're getting there. So I'd say the next one, just a little bit less, and then throw this out. I know this seems like an absolute waste of coffee, but this is the first time we're setting up this coffee in this grinder. So if you were to buy the same coffee from the same roaster all the time, you'd need to do this a lot less, and each bag should be roughly the same with small adjustments. So obviously right now it looks like we're burning through coffee, because we are, to be fair, but it won't be this extreme once you have this coffee set up and you're buying the same coffee. And that is another reason, if you don't want to do this all the time and you buy a grinder that you can do single doses per machine, that would be a reason to invest heavily in a La Marzocco and say a niche grinder. You wouldn't waste as much coffee. So I'm going to hit OK now. We're third. And hopefully the dial here goes up to just before the black line. Yes, that's looking good. To me, that is absolutely perfect. Espresso looks amazing as well. So I'm going to stop this at about 30, 32 maybe. Yeah, that is absolutely spot on. Look good. I'm sure that's going to taste amazing. And let's just fix the camera to talk through a few features. So you can see that's how we set up our DeLonghi. Ooh, that would have been a disaster. I wouldn't have liked that now. To have to clean that up on camera would have been embarrassing. So you can see that's how we set up our DeLonghi art machine. So now we have great tasting espresso set up, and you won't really need to do that again. You won't really need to do that again unless you're looking to get the absolute best out of your coffee every time. So we brew this now for the next 10 times. Let's say you go through this kilo bag of coffee. If we leave it on the same parameters, it's going to taste good. If you want it to taste absolutely amazing every time, you are better off investing in a better equipment. And I'm not talking about a DeLonghi. I'm not talking about a Sage. I'm talking about investing in commercial grade machines for home with a grinder like the niche grinder, where the grinder gives you more flexibility because you can grind by dose. So you're grinding every 18 grams, you're putting it into the grinder and grinding. So you just have a bit of an easier time changing the parameters, but it's a lot more money, and it just depends where you want to invest that money and what you want to get out of it. So now I can brew this coffee for the week to come. Let's say you're brewing it for the week. I can brew this coffee for the week to come. I can practice my latte art. If you want a latte art video, I'll put it down in the descriptions. But I can practice my latte art and I can get great tasting coffee for the week. Sorry, good, yeah, cafe quality coffee for the week. But if you want absolutely exceptional coffee, you need to get a better machine. And again, it's not the model up from the DeLonghi or the model up from the Sage. If you're going models up, it has different features to help you change these settings. So, you know, the way we have the dial here, let's say the top model for the Sage that you're spending like 1,200 on, instead of just a dial, it will say a recommended grind size. So it will say, okay, this took too long, pressure was too high, so you need to grind coarser. So that's what it does. Let's taste this. It's really good. Like, it's really, really good. Again, it's just a mess of setting things up. But next time it won't be as messy, it won't take as much coffee. And I hope you found this video valuable. Please put down in the comments what you thought. If you want to see any other kind of setup videos or whatever you want to see in content wise, please do reach out, message down below. Yeah, thank you very much for tuning in.